What if I told you in this video, I'm going to teach you the Holy Grail trading strategy, a foolproof series of steps, rules, and criteria that you just need to learn and follow to become consistently profitable for the rest of your life? Well, you would obviously think that I'm full of shit, and rightly so, great instincts. But luckily, that's not what I'm going to teach you in this video. You see, every trader who's been doing this for more than a month or has more than 2 brain cells in their head knows that there's no such thing as a Holy Grail trading strategy. You might hope there is, but deep down, you know it doesn't exist. There's no perfect sequence you can follow each and every time to consistently succeed in the markets over a large sample size. You might have a lucky week, you might even have a lucky month. You're not going to have a lucky career. But that doesn't stop people pushing the idea on social media. They might not call it a Holy Grail strategy, but their simple 5-step strategy that prints me 10K a month, or simple trick that increased my trade success rate to 75% suggests otherwise. You see, people online always try to dumb down trading to the most basic steps because simplicity sells. But since you're watching this video, I'm guessing you're not buying that. But what if I told you there's a good chance you're actually doing something very similar without even realizing it? And it's probably holding you back from achieving the sort of performance that you know that you're capable of. That's what I'm going to explain in this video. I'm going to help you to understand the problem, to know why it happens, to see how it negatively impacts your trading performance, and how to solve it. And I'll walk you through a simple, yes, the irony's not lost on me on that one, practical exercise that you can do today to start figuring out clear areas of improvement, see how this problem is appearing in your trading and how to cut it the fuck out. And as always, if you want more of my insights and lessons from over 20 years in the markets and breakdowns of some of my trades, you can sign up for free using the link in the description box, and you'll get all the training that I don't share on the YouTube channel and that you won't find being taught anywhere else, all at no cost. So even if you're just curious, you've got nothing to lose, you might as well sign up. All right, always worth a try. So let's get started by reflecting on where things stand for you right now. I want to ask you some questions, and please take some time to think through your answer. Pause the video if you have to. So when you sit down to improve your trading, what do you actually work on? What is it that you're doing when you're trying to improve your trading? Or when you hit a period of bad performance, what do you actually try to change to get things back on track? And if there was one improvement that could make you consistently profitable, what do you think that improvement's going to be? Now, be honest. Don't think about what sounds like the right answer, but think about what you actually do. How are you spending your time right now? Don't cheat yourself with this one. Because here's the interesting part. When most traders answer those questions honestly, what they describe usually isn't skill development. It's not skill improvement. It's about their system, their strategy. It's about adjusting things in their strategy in some way, changing their rules, changing their entry or exit criteria, the way they apply different levels or indicators, the parameters, or getting better at following the rules and figuring out ways to get themselves to actually stick to them properly. You know, people who say, if I just stuck to my system, if I stuck to my strategy, I'd be succeeding. I know what I'm meant to be doing and I can't get myself to do it. So they try and box themselves in to be able to do that. And I see it constantly in emails that I receive from traders. They'll say things like they hit a rough patch, then they tweak their strategy, and now things magically seem to be getting better. They stopped trading reversals and switched to just trading breakouts. They moved to a different time frame, they changed markets, started scaling in, or only now trade with the trend, all these different things, and magically now things seem to be working. But what that really says is the rules are what's going to make me profitable, or it's the rules that make me profitable. Just find the right combination, stick to it, problem solved. In other words, you don't think you believe in a Holy Grail trading strategy, but if you're completely honest, your actions suggest otherwise. Your actions suggest that you're still working towards one. It's the Holy Grail mindset just disguised as something a bit more sophisticated. So, the important question, why does this happen? Well, I think there are 3 clear reasons. Now, I'm sure there are many other reasons, but these are the 3 most common ones, I believe. Firstly, the trading education industry has brainwashed everyone to believe that success in trading comes from finding the right strategy and then learning to stick with it. But it doesn't. Success in trading comes from developing the right skills. But this then relates to the second reason. Most traders, including the so-called gurus, don't even know what skills they should be developing. They're usually not even aware of the skills that matter the most. So if they know that their trading performance is down here, they're doing badly, they're losing money, and they want to bring it all the way up to here where they can start profiting from their trading, well, they know they've got to work on something to bridge that gap. It's not going to happen by itself. But if you don't know what skills you actually need to be developing to reach that point, instead you'll look for something else that feels tangible to work on, which is often rules. It feels productive, but really it's just like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You're not dealing with the core problem. If you want to know what skills you need to develop, how to track them, how to improve them over time, and learn a logical approach to trading, then just sign up using the link in the description box that I mentioned earlier. Now, the third reason is that your brain loves order. There's a concept in psychology known as compensatory control theory, and it explains our need as humans to have a sense of structure and predictability in the world around us. And because of that, when things are particularly chaotic or out of our control in particular situations, we'll cling on to order and structure that we can control more than we usually would. And this is why you see like sports people following weird rituals and superstitions to keep themselves grounded. And it's why traders feel more comfortable following rules. Because here's the thing, none of us, not us here, not me presenting this video to you, not you watching it, can control the markets. And things don't always follow an orderly structure. But by creating our own structure and our own rules, we create a sense of order that provides us with comfort. It feels systematic, measurable, and safe, but it's an illusion. Because the truth is, mechanical rules trading rarely ever works over a large sample size. It's popular online because it's easy to sell and it's easy to learn, it's easy to explain, it's easy to follow. When A and B happen, C is likely to happen next, so enter a trade at that point. But the thing is, markets are adaptive and dynamic. Activity levels change, drivers in the market change, behavior changes, context changes. Just like we talked about in that last video, there are endless ways that context can appear in the markets, and it's different each and every time. Of course, there are sometimes similarities, but there are also a lot of differences, and the differences matter. No fixed set of conditions is going to accurately capture that. And yes, I hear it all the time. Yeah, but quant traders use mechanical systems and they're among the most successful traders in the markets. Well, no, not like retail traders try to do. Real quant systems encode adaptable logic and probabilistic context. And that's why banks hire PhDs as quants and don't just buy a 50 quid EA from TikTok shop. Give me a fucking break. But listen, jokes aside, it's not just fully mechanical systems that I'm talking about here. So I don't want you sitting there thinking, well, I don't use mechanical rules trading, so this doesn't apply to me, because it probably does. It's rules in general that I'm talking about. Even within my own community, I see it. So at Duomo, our approach is about analyzing the markets to understand the unique context of that specific moment, forecasting the potential price moves, what we call potential outcomes, accurately estimating the probabilities of them based on the context and our understanding of the markets, and then executing trades when those outcomes show positive expectancy. Now, that relies on developing the necessary skills. No set of rules is going to do that for you. And I sometimes see comments where people complain that this approach means there's too much discretion. Yeah, like what do you expect? It's a set of skills. We're talking about forecasting the global financial markets, not speed running a video game. But here's the thing, even though our members know all of that, they understand why it's important to approach the markets that way and how effective it can be, you'll still see members trying to fit what they see in the markets, the context, into these tidy boxes of predetermined conditions that they can then rely upon. You love your boxes. That way they just have to figure out which box to categorize different things in, and it makes it all feel very black and white, very straightforward, rather than having to make real judgments in the markets, which then falls into more of a gray area. But the reality is, in the markets, every trade you take, if you want to succeed, is going to involve judgment. And judgment is a skill, not a rule book. When you rely purely on rules, you remove that judgment. You're trying to turn uncertainty into a fixed pattern, as if A and B happen, then C must follow on. But the markets don't obey your if-then statements. Now, let me make something really, really clear, because I'm sure it's going to get misinterpreted by people. I'm not saying that rules themselves are useless. I use rules in my trading as well. Rules can be incredibly useful, but you need to understand them for what they really are. Rules are shortcuts for applying logic. They're summaries of reasoning, not replacements for it. So let me explain what I mean. So take any rule or concept that you currently use in your trading. Maybe it's that you only trade in alignment with the higher time frame trend, the bigger picture trend. Or maybe you only enter when a particular type of level has been tested or broken. Now, when those conditions are met in the market, is there something magical happening? Of course not. Let's be fucking real. Do you think it's because everyone else is following the same rule? Now, a lot of traders do think that's the case, the so-called self-fulfilling prophecy, but in 99.9999% of cases, that's simply not true either. So those rules, the things that you're following, are not truths about the market. They're simplified ways of applying a particular logic. But if you follow those rules blindly, without understanding what that logic is or why the rule exists, you'll miss the deeper reasoning that actually makes the rule useful in the first place. Or you'll fail to see when the rule that you're following is completely fucking pointless. And that's why the same rules that seem to work in one situation lead to poor performance in almost every other situation, because the context has changed, but the rule hasn't. And the logic that's behind that rule doesn't fit the situation anymore. But if you do understand the logic behind your rules, you can adapt to any situation. And if you don't, you're going to stay trapped in an endless cycle of trial and error, like most mechanical traders constantly tweaking their system because they're just trying to fix symptoms rather than actually identifying the root cause and fixing that, because they've never even diagnosed it. And trust me, I've been there for many years. Early in my career, I took everything at face value. I learned what I was taught and just tried to stick to it as closely as possible without ever really asking why. But that one word, why, is probably the most important one in trading, because when you start to think logically, the rules stop being the point. You start to see why things work when they do, why they fail when they don't, and how to adapt in those situations. So, deep breath, rant over. So I'm going to walk you through an important practical exercise that will help you to start fixing this problem. And I'd really recommend that you spend a good amount of time doing this and give it your 100% focus. Don't think, I'll just do it another time. Don't skim over it or give it 5 minutes. Do it properly, commit to this. So open a new document on your computer, or grab a pen and paper if you want. You know, I'm not your fucking dad, do what you want. What I want you to do is to write down every single element of your trading approach. Every level, every concept, indicator, technique, pattern, process, every rule. And don't just stop at analysis, also include your strategy rules, trade management, risk management, everything that makes up your trading approach. Now, for each one, you're going to explain the full logic behind it, okay, in full. Now, a good way to do this if you're not sure how to get started is to follow something that's similar to the 5 whys technique. So start with the rule or concept and then ask yourself why you follow it. Why do you adhere to that rule? And when you have your answer, ask why again and keep going and keep going. Don't just stop at the surface. Keep asking why until you can't go any further. And this should lead you to an underlying principle, if one exists. So for example, you might say, I plot XYZ levels and look to enter when price fails there. Why? Because price is more likely to reverse there. Why? Because that's where the market does ... Why does that matter? Because it represents blah, 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 and so on and so on. You keep going down like that. Then when you're done and you can't dig any further for that particular thing, finish with these 3 key questions. 1, is there evidence of that? So you've made a claim about the logic of that particular thing, but can you actually prove it in some way? Prove that it's true? Otherwise, how do you know that it's a fact? Traders claim all kinds of things about the techniques that they use, but the simple fact is that when you objectively test it, the logic turns out to be complete bullshit. It just sounds legit, but is completely invented. The second question is, does the rule capture the full logic? So assuming there is evidence and the logic makes sense, does that particular rule fully capture it, or are you limiting yourself in some way? You know, sometimes you'll find that the rule is actually disconnected from the true logic or doesn't cover everything correctly and needs to be changed in some way. And finally, the third question, is the rule even necessary? So maybe if you figure out the underlying logic, you'll find that you can just apply that logic in each situation without even needing the rule at all. And at that point, that's when you start relying on skill a lot more, because you're able to make appropriate judgments in each situation rather than this if-then type statement, this binary approach of following rules or not following rules. Now, if you do this exercise properly, you will uncover real truths about your trading. You'll either confirm a genuine trading or market principle, expose something that's completely baseless, or find gaps in your understanding that you can finally fix. Whatever the outcome, you'll improve by removing what's pointless, refining what's useful, and developing the skill to start thinking for yourself. But listen, the most important thing here is that you've got to be honest with yourself, because it can be hard to admit that something you've invested time, effort, and money into might actually be wrong, that you've been misled for all of this time. And that's why most traders end up ignoring the evidence that's right in front of them, or try to justify it to themselves despite everything showing they're wrong. It's a typical case of cognitive dissonance. I mean, at the end of the day, you want your trading to be grounded in logic and not just habits that you've picked up over time without questioning them. And once you understand the logic behind everything you do, rules start to become more optional. You know when to bend them or break them, when to apply them and don't apply them without losing coherence. And that's the important thing about a skill, is knowing when you can do certain things without it being forced, without it being illogical, where it still makes sense, it's still coherent. Also, it's obviously very common to introduce rules to deal with problems that keep coming up, like certain mistakes you keep making or problem areas you've seen frequently in your trading, where it's like, okay, I keep doing this thing wrong, so I'm going to set a rule so that I don't do it anymore. Like having a rule where you stop trading after a certain number of losses because you keep revenge trading. But the thing with these sorts of rules is that they're usually just treating symptoms, and not very well most of the time. You're much better off trying to dig in to find the root cause behind that problem and then set an action plan that works on fixing that specific thing. That's going to make your trading so much more stable. But you know, research shows that it's the way our brains work, to try and solve problems by adding things rather than subtracting. Most of the time, we don't even see the solutions that involve removing something, even if it's right in front of our eyes. But this practical exercise, if you do it, should help you to achieve exactly that. So make the commitment, take the time, and do it properly. You know, trading isn't about memorizing the right checklist. It isn't just a pattern recognition activity, even though most people treat it that way. If it was, my 5-year-old nephews could do it. Instead, it's mostly a problem-solving activity. It's about understanding and interpreting the unique context of each market situation and using that understanding and interpretation to make logical decisions within the right sort of framework. Most traders blame psychology for their struggles and why they're failing, but the real problem most of the time is a lack of meaningful skill and logic. More traders would succeed if they changed the way they think about trading. And if you're currently struggling to see progress, watch the video that's on screen now, and it will show you the mindset shifts that will finally put you on the right path.